Today, we are going to teach you 6 tips that we use in our shop to create a perfect waterfall from wood and epoxy, plus some bonus tips that we've never shared before. First things first, we need to talk about our slab selection and layout. If this is a custom built piece, it is important to communicate the layout and details with the client to ensure that they know what to expect when they receive the finished product. Earlier this week, we had our client visit the shop to have a look at the slab options, and these are the slabs he decided to go with, and here are the details that we discussed. We just got approval for these slabs for our custom desk that we're making.
Okay.
The exact size is 48 inches for the top, and then we're gonna do a 30-inch leg.
Okay.
So 48-inch top here, we're gonna waterfall the leg. Always make a work order, even if you are a one-person shop. It helps keep details organized and prevents mistakes.
I'm just gonna mark this out so this way.
Yeah, kind of give a rough line. We don't want to go too far because we don't want that river to get too wide. Okay, that's pretty much perfect because he's okay with a little bit of sapwood.
Right where we have the legs marked, it'll give us a good transition for the waterfall as well.
Yeah, because we don't want that to be too extreme because when we
Yeah.
put the miter, you'll end up with a weird transition from the top to the legs. So when we power carve this a little bit, we'll try to make it just a touch straighter where that miter cut's gonna be, so that it looks a little more seamless. Make sure you plan your miter location to be in a spot where the river is fairly straight. I think that's good. Yeah, we'll clean up this a little.
Yep.
I think that's basically what we're gonna end up with.
All right, so we're just gonna measure out what we want to be the top of the table. Get rid of the softwood. I overcut it so that this way we get a longer piece. So this way I have a nice flush straight edge across one side, so now I can square up the width of the table, so this way it's square with our form, since our form is square. So now that I have the slabs to a reasonable size, I'm just going to square up the ends.
Once you have squared up your slabs, it's time to make sure the live edges are cleaned up. You want to remove any bark or loose debris that may end up loose and floating in the epoxy. We use a grinder with a power carving disc and then a torch to add some color. Now that the slabs are ready, it's time to prep your form. This pour is smaller than our pre-made form, so we are using HDPE dividers to customize the size of the form to suit this project. We like to run a bead of silicone between the divider and the base and where they meet the sides of the form. I see a lot of people rush these steps, and then they end up with a leak and a very costly mistake. Take your time with the form building and make sure it's rock solid and 100% sealed before placing the slabs and pouring epoxy. It's important to be cautious when placing the slabs. You don't want to break the silicone seal on your form or dividers. We use clamping cauls to prevent the slabs from floating or moving during the pour. Just make sure you use some HDPE clamping blocks. Don't forget to make sure your form is clean after this process. We are using beaver dust dark blue for this pour. We showed our client all of the blue options and this was his selection. We always jot down exactly how much pigment we use and how much epoxy so we can duplicate the color again if needed. We're going to speed up through this part so we can get to our next tip, but we'll link a video right here for you to watch if you want to learn more about epoxy flow cast and some of the other steps for building a table like this. The next stop after the piece comes out of the form is the CNC, and that leads us to our second tip. Make sure your piece is flat before cutting the miter. If your piece is twisted or has an uneven thickness, it will make it near impossible to have a nice clean miter. If you don't have your own CNC, you can always use a wide belt sander, and if you don't have either of these machines in your shop, you can find a local shop that offers flattening services to help you out.
So this will be the top, and these are going to be the legs. So we'll sand it up, and then we'll fill all the fills and anything else we need to do. Yeah, so we have this much room to play with if we have to shift it back and forth.
Festool Rotex, and we're using 40 grit, a very aggressive grit, just to get the machine marks out.
We use hot glue to create a barrier when doing small top-up fills. Sometimes the flattening process exposes voids or shallow areas of the pour. The hot glue scrapes off easily, and then you're ready to sand.
A 48-inch top of the desk. And I'm going to give myself a couple of inches on the length of the top as well as the length of the legs, because this is going to have the waterfall legs cut into it.
It's important to make sure you are measuring twice and cutting once, and making sure everything is square each step of the way.
We just place the track on the table. We're going to square up the one side. So this way we can get our final thickness or final width of the table.
Good reference edge, I guess.
Checking the width of the table to see if I want to cut more off on the left side of the river or the right side of the river, just to balance it out. Is it just from a visual appeal, it looks like there's a little bit more wood slab onto the right hand side versus the left, and we're currently at an overall length of or width of 36 3/4. So most likely I'll just cut off the extra 3/4 off of this side instead of that side again. So we've oversized the slab so that when we do the cut for the waterfall leg and for the top itself, we can square it up at the end to make sure that everything is actually to spec. Right now I'm going to measure out the top of it. They want 48 inches. And now that we squared up the leg at the bottom, I'm going to measure it out. We want an overall height of 30 inches, which then gives us about half of an inch on either side to adjust for any squaring issues that we might have. Just like bananas in pajamas. Okay, so we're gonna cut the leg portion off of the top portion, and instead of starting off with a miter cut, we're just gonna straight cut it. And once we do that, we'll be able to do the miter cut on the two individual pieces. Since the table is only 48 inches for the top in length, we'll be able to use our table saw to do the miter.
Make sure your 45-degree miter cuts are straight and accurate so you end up with a perfect waterfall joint.
I'll grab the tape, we'll tape it up so this way we can get a better idea on the miter. That's fine. Okay, so we'll mark for 2 dominoes on each side. It's a little bit overkill, but that's okay. Artwork is up there.
So this is our Herald Festool Domino XL. It works just like a biscuit joiner to create a mortise for the domino. So right now we're going to set it to 45 degrees, which is what our miter is at. And then lock it in. We're going to check our depth just at the side here. So that will be our depth. And now that we've got our depth and angle set up, we can run the dominoes.
So this is what we were talking about, a tight fitting domino on the table side of the desk, the top side of the desk, and here is the loose fitting one. This allows us to shim the table left to right if we need to line it up after gluing. The reason why we had to cut the dominoes was the fact that we didn't go as deep when using the domino to make the mortises, because we didn't want to go through the table. Our current dominoes are 50 millimeters, and the depth of the hole is 15 millimeters. So just so that we didn't go through the table, we'll just make an adjustment on the domino side of things, and it'll line up just as if they were the correct size. I can go for like a chicken parmesan sandwich.
Oh,
Extra
like-
cheese, medium
like a-
spice.
chicken parmesan sandwich, yeah. My guess was like miter calls or like miter clamp jiggy things.
Yeah, I think we'll go with that. Probably says right here, miter clamp jiggy things.
So these miter clamp jiggy thingies will give even pressure on the 45-degree miter. So the clamps they'll sit here and here to, just apply pressure towards the miter.
We use a combination of wood glue and epoxy for the waterfall glue up. This West Systems epoxy will cure up overnight, so it's perfect for this application.
From this line this way, we're going to use wood glue, and this line this way, we're going to use epoxy. So this way it clears out all the epoxy and it gives it a nice, pretty much bonding. So this way we don't get like a creamy wood glue in the middle of the river. So with the epoxy, since we sanded it down just enough, it'll have good bonding strength and give us a nice look for when we do a bit of a round over on the miter itself. So I'll mark it this side, and then this side will have wood glue, epoxy. And give yourself enough of a buffer so that this way with the squeeze out, if the wood glue goes on that side, it doesn't go into the river. Puts the lotion on its skin.
Just scraping up the excess epoxy so that it's easier to take it off now rather than when it dries up.
They're called, and you can put it on the screen.
So our next step is to add the round over edge detail, and on our waterfall edge we're just going to break the edge sort of with a sander.
Keep your legs long so you can do a final measurement referencing any other legs or supports. Here we are cutting a strip off the leg to bring the finished height of the table to 30 inches. We wipe down our project with a tack cloth to remove any residue and dust before applying our finish.
And now we're just finishing off with a little bit of Rubio Monocoat Pure. Just applying it with a squeegee very liberally.
So now that we got the bottom oiled up, we're going to measure out for the leg. We got some threaded inserts. We're going to measure to make sure that it's center, and the customer wants it about an inch away from the edge of the table, at least the plate. What do you have?
3.5-ish.
Yeah, I got 3.5. Okay. So from the plate, let's get about 1.25 inches, or 1.1 1/8, sorry.
1 1/8.
Yeah. So that gives the customer in between 40 inches.
Now we're center punching the table so we know where to put our rampa inserts.
So we're going to put the threaded inserts in. We give it a little drop of Acfix CA glue just so it bonds a little bit better and the inserts don't come out. You got the light end.
If you've made it this far, thanks for watching this one. We truly appreciate the support we've gotten here on the channel in the last little while, and your feedback means a lot, so drop us a line in the comments and let us know what we're doing well and what we could improve on.